Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Weird World Podcast. This is a part 2 episode of the Texarkana.
Phantom Slayer, Moonlight Murder, various names.
Yep. My name is Carrie.
I'm Emma.
I'm Dean.
And Dean is going to continue the horrifying saga.
I will. I'll start with a recap, though. We had the first attack on Jimmy Hollis and Mary Larry. They both lived because apparently the perpetrator was scared off. The perpetrator, you recall, was really scared because he had the pillowcase or something like that tied over his head, toting a gun with eye holes and stuff. And they were, of course, both those persons lived, and they were able to identify at least the basic appearance of the killer.
And she was treated like a dirty liar.
She was, oddly enough.
Which makes me angry.
It does, not oddly enough. And then we went to the Griffin Moore murders, where it became lethal, where Richard Griffin and Polly Moore were actually murdered in a kind of a lover's lane, which, of course, is where the first attacks were located as well.
This was the 17-year-old girl and the 29-year-old man.
Yes, it was.
That also makes me angry.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
So a lot about this makes Carrie angry. Not the murders so much as this history, the context of them. Then we had the murders of Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin, who were both roughly age appropriate, but Carrie's problem with that was...
I thought he was creepy.
Yeah,
which is terrible.
He drove her to a lover's lane.
Yeah, I have no basis to say that.
No,
so
you
I
don't.
shouldn't.
You don't.
I shouldn't say it. Yeah,
You shouldn't. You really.
But
you shouldn't
my
have just said it.
other problem with that was her parents let her stay out way too late.
Well, yeah, she was in a band. She was 16 and she played saxophone for a band, staying out very late.
Honestly, I'm fine with that part because they always got her home safely. Mm-hmm. I'm not fine with the then young kid coming and picking her up and keeping her out late.
Yeah. Carrie puts her mom lenses on all of her murder cases.
She does.
She really does. So we ended with sort of panic had really gripped Texarkana. We're going to talk a little bit more about this after the next case, though, the next event. We'll talk a little more about just how, this really was, as the bad movie's title said, the town that dreaded sundown. They were in an intense panic by the Booker Martin case, because now it's like any teen out near a lover's lane is going to be slaughtered.
Yeah.
They were terrified. But the terror was going to be ratcheted up here with this next event, quite a bit, as a matter of fact. So it's May 3rd, 1946. It's a Friday. It's been about 3 weeks since the Martin Booker attacks. This one is different, however. It's after supper, so still pretty early. The others were fairly late at night or even the early morning. It's at a house. The house belongs to the Starks. Virgil Starks was a welder, but he also had this 500-acre farm where he and his wife Katie lived in a big, 6-room farmhouse, and they grew cotton and corn. He was about 36 or 37 years old. She was about 35 or 36 years old. Accounts, as always, vary. They had known each other since childhood, but they did not have any children. They lived alone in this farmhouse. It's about 9 p.m.
What? They need farmhands.
They had each other.
Farmers have to have kids.
They probably had people to help with the 500 acres, I imagine.
Yeah, but you
I
got to
hope.
pay them. You don't got to pay your kids.
Wow.
That should be illegal.
But it's true.
Yeah, that's why farmers have a bunch of kids.
Yeah, that is true.
That's why anybody has kids, really, if you think about it. That and getting put in the nice home. That's always
Yes,
nice.
that's true.
You have to be nice to your kids to be put in a nice home, though.
Well, I'm in trouble. So the farm is located just off Highway 67 East. It's about 10 miles. That's 16 kilometers to the rest of you.
Good job.
Northeast of Texarkana, and it's in Miller County, Arkansas. So this is the first event to take place on the Arkansas side of Texarkana. As you remember from part 1, Texarkana is this weird town where there really is a Texarkana, Arkansas, and a Texarkana, Texas, and they straddle, and they almost function as a single city. They straddle the border. It's a pretty rural area out here, this 10 miles or so from the city. They do have houses, but there's no real near neighbors. The houses are all separate. Their house, the farmhouse, is set about 100 yards back from Highway 67. So it's quiet, it's dark.
Scary.
It's very scary. Although, again, every attack so far has taken place in cars, people parked in lovers' lanes areas.
Yeah.
Katie has set up her husband Virgil with a heating pad because he has a very sore lower back. So she puts him in his nice reclining easy chair, puts the heating pad behind his back, plugs it in. It's the old days. Actually, I think they still have to be plugged in, don't they? Do
Yeah,
they?
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. They really need to have, I think, heating pads with Bluetooth technology. I
Yeah.
don't know why.
Yep. It should have Alexa heating
Yes.
pads. Alexa,
Yes.
turn on. Oops, sorry. All right, Alexa,
Don't,
turn on.
don't say this aloud. So Katie gave him the day's Texarkana Gazette, and she turned on the radio so he could listen to his favorite radio show. Okay, she's got him all set up there. Now, physically, this situated Virgil just a few feet from their big front window. It's closed, but he's in the front room of the house, so he's in an easy chair. There's no TV, just the radio. He's right by the window.
And you can see out of it? Like there's no blinds
Yeah.
or anything?
No. Well, there might be some curtains, but now you can see through. I think the curtains are open. Are there wispy curtains? I don't know.
Sheer.
Sheer. There we go. Actually, I kind of like wispy better than sheer.
Wispy,
even though
I knew what you
sheer
meant.
Makes more sense. So Katie goes upstairs into the master bedroom because she's exhausted from another hard farm work day. She puts on a nightgown and she lies down. It was pretty mild, so I looked it up. It was 83 high that day.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a hot day, but she's just tired. Just after Katie had lain down, she sprang up at the sound of breaking glass coming from downstairs.
Oh, God, that would terrify me.
Well, at first, no. At first, she thinks, okay, did he drop his glass of
Yeah.
water? I gave him a glass of water. He
Right.
may have dropped it. He's got the bad back. I better go
Yeah.
check on him. So she walked downstairs, walked into the living room, and as she got there, Virgil suddenly lurched up from his chair and then just plummeted, dropped right back down into it.
Huh.
She's like, what's happening to him? Is he stricken somehow? So she moves closer and she sees, as she gets closer, that the back of her husband's head was just a mass of blood.
Oh, my God.
She also sees that the front window has been shattered.
Yeah.
But she's not completely realized that Virgil had just been shot twice in the back of the head through that broken window. She doesn't
my
understand
Oh,
that
my God.
right away.
No, you might think that the glass hit his head. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And what's the window? You just wouldn't process that.
Right.
Why is that window broken? I don't
Yeah.
know. So she ran to the kitchen, right adjacent, and she starts to call the police. So one of those old timey phones, so she has to crank it. Apparently,
What? Wow.
It's hard to even imagine what it is. It's 1946, but it's
Yeah.
again somewhat rural Arkansas.
Yeah.
So they have a crank phone, a crank. I don't know what the hell you even call them, but I can picture it.
Yeah.
But
I can picture one, but
it's old school. She was only able to crank it twice before two more shots ring out.
Oh, no.
no.
Both shots came from the shattered window, and both smash into Katie's face.
Oh, no.
Oh, Katie.
By now, she has to realize that the gunman was standing right on the porch,
Yeah.
right outside the window, just feet away from her when she's checking on her husband, and when he indeed shot her husband, shooting through the window into the front room of their house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrifying. So she's stricken, but she's alive. One bullet had gone through her right cheek and exited just behind her left ear.
Oh, my God.
my
Apparently
Lord.
under her brain, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It had to have.
The second bullet crashed through her lower lip, fractured her jaw, blasted out several teeth, and
my
then lodged
God.
beneath her tongue.
Oh, my goodness gracious me.
Katie fell to her knees, but then she struggled to her feet. She's a true Texan, so she crawled into her bedroom to get a gun.
Wait, you said this was on the Arkansas side.
I feel like she's a Texan.
Texarkana.
I feel she's got some Texas blood in her with that movie.
Yeah.
All right.
Her parents are from just
I
Texas.
think so. Let's assume. We have no way of knowing that. Probably not
just assume.
true, but let's assume that's true. So the blood is streaming over her face. It's blinding her, essentially. And she finds herself grappling through the house, half blind, knowing the killer must be right
Yeah.
there. As she has to, crawl / stumble by him, almost blind with blood over her face and terribly injured, assuming he's right there, gonna
Yeah.
take another shot at
Yeah.
her. She's fully exposed to him.
I would lay down and play dead.
Would you?
Yeah.
You'd
I
possum it?
probably would too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then
hoping he would leave.
you'd be dead. But Katie it's not a bear. It's a person. It's different. Smarter. Not that much,
Yeah.
but Katie must have realized that the killer, by now she's realized the killer had shot from the window because she starts to struggle her way back in the house toward the back door.
Yeah.
She's thinking of escape through the back door. To her horror, though, The killer had sought a different vantage point. She heard him tearing at the old kind of screen wire mesh around their back porch to keep out the bugs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So she now figures, okay, I'm dead. He's going to break in. He's going to come through the back door. He's going to shoot me. So some versions say that she staggered up to her bedroom to write a goodbye note. Like,
Oh.
I'm dead, leave all to the kids. Wait, we don't have any. Leave all to the farmhands. I don't know. But the killer, meanwhile, had indeed made his way into the screened side porch toward the back of the house there. So he's gotten in through the screen part. He's not in the house yet.
Right.
Though. Katie heard him trying to climb through the kitchen window. So I guess the screen porch must go around a big chunk of the back and side of the house. So
Yeah.
he's got into the screen porch area. He's now trying to get in through the kitchen where she just was a minute ago. Or she thinks maybe he's trying to break into the back door. She's not completely certain. So she figures, if I have any chance, he's back there at the back of the house now. If I have any chance, it's right now. So she struggles through several rooms. The descriptions of this, by the way, I would love to see a floor plan because it's super confusing.
Yeah.
But you read that she struggled through like the dining room, a bedroom, down the hall, through another bedroom, and then back into the living room, the front room where Virgil was.
Yeah.
All the while trailing copious blood.
Yeah.
She flees past her dead husband and out the front door,
Oh my God.
racing down the road in her blood-soaked nightgown and bare feet. Katie got to the home of her sister and brother-in-law, which is about 200 yards away and on the
Jesus.
other side of Highway 67. So she
Wow.
runs the 100 yards. I guess it's more or less kind of across the street. Remember, it's about 100
Yeah.
yards of the highway. She cries, and the highway is, it's a 2-lane rural
Sure.
road. So there's no
Not
one.
packed
But
with cars.
still,
Yeah.
that's pretty far to run.
It
when
is pretty
you're
far, yeah. And then
Shot
another,
twice in the face.
yeah. And then she goes another 100 yards to her in her sister's house. She pounds on the door, right? But then she kind of looks around and realizes the house is completely dark. They're not home.
Oh my God.
Out of the movie,
Oh
probably.
my God.
No one's there. So knowing the killer could easily follow her trail of blood or
Yes.
hear her pounding across the road, Katie ran another 50 yards and made it to the home of her nearest non-related neighbor, a man named A.V. Prater. Thankfully, Prater answered the door. Katie was just able to choke out, Virgil's dead, and then she collapsed onto his porch.
Yeah. Oh
Wow.
no.
Knowing obviously something terrible has just happened.
Right.
He's not completely sure yet, though. Prater, he drags Katie back into the house, in his house. He knows he needs help, so he grabs his rifle.
Good.
He steps outside, and he fires it off into the air. He hoped this would get the attention of his next neighbor just down the road, a man named Elmer Taylor. This is now called a Texas telephone.
Oh my God.
It's not really called a Texas
I
telephone.
know.
And again, we're in Arkansas.
Right.
But it
It
just
feels
better. Yeah.
Texas.
It really does. So I'm like shooting in the
Yeah.
air, and my neighbor goes, "What is it?" So it worked. Taylor comes outside of his house, and Prater shouts down at Taylor and says, "Get your car, Elmer. The Starks have been shot." Taylor drove with Katie in the front seat. So Elmer Taylor gets his car, comes out there, Prater's. They put Katie in the front seat next to Elmer Taylor, who's driving, and A.V. Prater, his wife, and their baby
Ooh.
get in the back seat, and they're trying to sort of comfort
Yeah.
Katie in the front seat as they do. I mean, they didn't have a babysitter; they had to take the
Yeah,
baby with
of
them.
course.
This horrifically mangled woman.
And you wouldn't want to leave your wife and baby in the house
No, you wouldn't,
with a
'cause you don't-
shooter around. Yeah.
There's a shooter around there. So as far as they know, he's
Yeah.
still prowling the area.
Yeah.
So as they speed to the hospital, Katie dug one of her shattered teeth from her mouth, and she gave it to Taylor. It had a gold filling.
Oh my
So
God.
she here,
Jesus.
hold on to this. It's not cheap. She remained more or less conscious the entire way to the hospital, sort of slumping forward and blood just pouring out of her.
Yeah.
But she's conscious and alive the entire way. And so she lives.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. And since Katie had lived, though, they were able to tell law enforcement right when they got to the hospital. So law enforcement is now on to this crime scene way earlier than they were on to
Right.
the earlier ones, who they had to found hours later, the next day even.
But she probably never even saw him.
She
The
did not.
shooter.
No,
Wow.
she had no look at him whatsoever. There was soon 30 law enforcement personnel at the site. They came from local cities, the 2 counties on either side of the border. There were Texas Rangers and even a couple of FBI agents. State troopers blockaded Highway 67 East for several miles from the Starks' house in both directions.
Yeah.
They were thinking, okay, if he's still in the area, we'll get him. But At least they figured, unless he knows side roads or something like that, or had already sped past their blockade,
Yeah.
we'll get him. He had already sped past their
Yeah.
blockade. They didn't get him. One Miller County deputy sheriff described how they are all kind of just running around trying to collect evidence and interview witnesses, right? It's just it's a chaotic scene. But there are houses in the area. They're just spread out. But this process could be very dangerous. You're going up to houses at night after many shots had rung out, at least 4 shots, I guess, or 5 counting the Texas telephone. So, quote, this is the deputy sheriff. We went to the other people's homes in the area to see if they had heard or seen anything. People would stand out near the front of their homes and yell at you to identify yourself before you got too close. You had to identify yourself or you'd be shot, which I frankly don't blame them.
Yeah.
What they found told them the story that they kind of expected. So cash and jewelry left in the house untouched. It indicated there's no robbery attempt. That, plus the shots coming from outside through the window, told the police that this has really just been an assassination, not any kind of burglary or something like that. So this new incident was immediately connected to the Phantom Slayer events that had been going on now for a couple of months. And while his men worked the scene, the Miller County Sheriff, W.E. Davis, went into the surgery while Katie was being operated on and questioned her, I guess she didn't have a general anesthetic.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, it doesn't.
If she was questioned, yeah.
I mean, she's been shot in the face twice. She had a bullet under her tongue. God damn, knock me out.
Well, but also, how's she going to talk?
If she's being operated
She's
on.
conscious.
I did not
sure.
hear him.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
He must have just tried to ask her yes or no
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
Maybe so. He was desperate for information. They
Yeah.
thought, we can get this guy finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, police back on the scene found Virgil Starks either in his chair or had fallen to the floor. Again, accounts differ. His chair, though, was smoldering from a little fire that had been caused by the heating pad.
Oh, yeah.
Either
I
way,
didn't think of that.
he was dead.
Yeah.
The Phantom Killer had claimed his 5th victim, Katie, narrowly avoiding being the 6th.
Wow.
After she had a successful surgery, they took the bullet from her mouth and they patched her up as best they could, and she lived, as I mentioned.
Wow.
Investigators also found Katie's shattered teeth in the kitchen and a pool of blood beneath the telephone.
Oh, God.
And again, they found her trail of blood all throughout the house.
Is this one of those cases where when she gets home from the hospital, she's going to have to clean up all the blood?
Probably.
I don't know, but I bet probably so.
It's just so
Hopefully her
awful.
neighbors cleaned up for her. Or the Sunshine Cleaning Service did, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
So all were amazed that Katie had not bled out.
Yeah.
They were shocked she had lived through this thing. They surmised how the gunman had indeed shot Virgil through the front window and then waited for Katie to come, probably knowing she would come to see what the commotion
Right.
was about to take shots at her, which he did. There was some physical evidence left behind for this, a little more than there had been in the earlier cases. The killer had entered through the back door. As she's fleeing through the front door, he was getting into the house through the
Yeah.
back door. His muddy shoe prints showed his trail through the house. He searched upstairs, apparently. He thought maybe she's hiding in the bedroom or hiding upstairs. So he went upstairs and came back downstairs and then searched in the living room and all through that area there, through the front door. And then they see the trail go to the front door and follow her out. So it looked like he's pursuing and chasing
Yeah.
after Katie, but his little foray up into the stairs probably is what gave her enough time to get away and get to safety.
Yeah.
The killer had also left behind bullet casings. However, oddly different than he had it in the past, as you recall, these were from a .22 caliber rifle, not a .32 Colt pistol that had been used in the earlier crimes. Still, again, law enforcement immediately believed the perpetrator was the same man who had been murdering Texarkanans for weeks.
Yeah.
There was also a flashlight found in the hedge by the front window where the killer had set up his hunting blind, his murder blind. So there was kind of shrubs and bushes there. He kind of hid down there, skulked down there, and probably listening, probably hearing what they're doing. And when Katie left, he popped up, shot him, and waited for her and shot her.
So I'm assuming they have plenty of fingerprints.
We'll see. But at least they have this flashlight. He had dropped it in his rush to kill and had left it there. The press published pictures of the flashlight and asked anyone who had seen it to come forward. And finally, there were some fingerprints in some places on the walls and also some handprints too. But the prints were smeared for the most part, and they were not very helpful. Plus, there had been just a ton of cops all over that house, and none of them wearing gloves. None of them. This is 1946.
Jeez. Yeah.
Again, these are rural, for the most part, jurisdictions.
Yeah.
It was not clear at all that any of the prints had been made by the perpetrator or by the law enforcement personnel in the house. Police in Hope, Arkansas, that was the nearest decent-sized town to the Starks home, they brought in dogs the next morning, and the dogs were able to follow 2 trails to and from the house. They led about 200 yards away to the highway and up the road, where they were sort of lost the scent immediately. So there's a trail going from the house to the highway and from the highway to the house in reverse order in terms of chronology. He'd clearly parked by the highway, walked to the house 200 yards away, and walked back and got out in his car. And so they lost the track. When he got into his car, they did find some tire tracks and some spent cigarette butts by the car. So that told them he parked there and waited a while, waiting for it to get dark maybe.
Yeah.
And then when it's dark, he crept across the way there and across. I mean, I guess their front of their house is 100 yards off the highway, so
Right.
he's walking toward their house.
Yeah.
For
That
quite a
is
while,
terrifying.
exposed. And if they had looked out, they would have seen
A person walking to their home.
with
Yeah.
probably presumably a pillowcase mask on
Yeah.
and a big rifle in his hand, and not good. And then he had fled back and left by his car. The police sent the flashlight to the FBI in Washington, D.C. for analysis. While they waited for any of these leads to come out, they decided that the attack was motivated by sex mania, quote unquote.
Oh my God. They love saying that.
They really do, especially back then. The reasoning was that the killer had not stolen any money, even though there was some money in the farmhouse. So, sex mania, solid reasoning.
Money, sex, those are only 2 possible motives.
And so the Texarkana Gazette of Sunday, May 5th, blared the headline, quote, "Sex maniac hunted and murders." All caps, by the way.
God.
Just right away, just immediately.
Yeah.
So a sex maniac. I mean, they did have the context of the previous attacks, and there was sexual assault in those previous attacks. So
Yeah.
it's not wholly without evidence, but it just seems like an out-and-out assassination. He shot at her. I mean, was he planning on attacking her when he saw her by the phone? He just shot her? Why didn't he come into the house when she was still upstairs before she came down to check on the husband?
Yeah.
So it's not clear. Alas, the flashlight, no fingerprints whatsoever. Had no helpful information. It was likely then that the killer had worn gloves, and none of those prints inside the house were his. They were all the prints of cops. I mean, otherwise, I'll certainly have prints on the flashlight.
Right.
He clearly dropped it. He didn't
Right.
wipe it and then drop it. He dropped it, ran into the house, ran after her,
Yeah.
and then probably chased after her. When he realized she was at someone's house, he got in the car and left.
Yeah.
So he was almost certainly wearing gloves. The police printed pictures of the flashlight, though, in the newspapers to see if they can just get any kind of a tip. And they had the headline says, "Have you seen this 2-cell flashlight? You may be the one to aid in solving the Phantom Slayings." That was in the paper. The reward now to nab the Phantom Slayer was at $7,025, and donations were coming in daily from concerned citizens. They pooled it with other rewards, and it got to about $10,000 by now.
Wow.
Which is a pretty good chunk of change
Yeah.
there. So as I mentioned, there was just utter panic in the streets. When the first murders of Richard Griffin and Polly-Ann Moore, parents throughout Texarkana were kind of worried, you know. They told the kids maybe you should come home early, maybe you should avoid these lovers' lanes. You know, there was some concern. But then after the 2 more attacks and then the attack on the Starks, the town went into a frenzy. The attack on the Starks was in a house. It was so
Yeah.
different. It
Yeah.
was so the Texarkana Gazette helped calm nerves with its May 5th story that said the killer could strike again at any time, any place, and kill anyone. Thank you, Texarkana Gazette.
So go about your business.
Yeah.
You're equally in danger no matter what you do.
Yeah. So now it wasn't just concerned about your kids or whatever parking in lovers' lanes. It was everything, everywhere,
Yeah.
anytime. It really was. So everyone locked their doors when they had never locked doors before. You always hear that, like, oh, we never locked the doors until then.
Right.
First of all, you should probably have locked your doors
Yeah.
already. Second of all, you're probably lying. I bet you a lot of people locked their doors.
We
But
didn't lock our doors when we were kids. Was your door always locked as a kid?
in
No.
Long Beach, California, yes, it was.
Yeah, he grew up in a different area.
Yeah,
than you
Carrie,
did.
my door was
You
locked.
guys weren't going in and out during the day playing and stuff like
Well,
that?
we didn't live in no.
Oh,
It wasn't suburbia. We were at my dad's
Yeah.
house on every other weekend. Yes.
Yeah.
At where I lived, the rest of the time, absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
Once again, different areas.
The shades. Everybody put their shades down. They had lights on all night long. Guard dogs suddenly became very
Yeah.
popular. Families just kind of hunkered down behind barred windows. They had the guns out. They even slept with guns next to them on the table, on like a nightstand. They had their children sleep on cots or on sleeping bags on the floor next to them. And I imagine many of those kids lying with wide open eyes, terrified what the hell's happening all through the night. But it was, I mean, they were on edge. They were horrified. Some people even tried to booby trap their doors and windows.
Oh my.
They built like jerry-rigged like alarms sometime where they just tie wires and then they tie like pots and pans to the wires. So if somebody tripped the wire, they'd hear the clang.
Right.
An article in Life magazine in June described one local woman, a Mrs. Henry Rochelle, because as we know, in the 1940s, women got their husbands' names.
Yes.
Of course. She was living with fear and booby traps. Quote, blanket is nailed over a glass door. Table teetering on ashtray and will fall over if the door is opened, spilling nails onto tin trays and waking up Mr. and Mrs. Rochelle, who keep a rifle next to their bed. If doors open, pots will smash against vases on the floor.
Wow.
It was probably a really bad time to be a teenager that wanted to sneak out of the house.
Oh, it was
You
a
just couldn't do
terrible time. You would have been pissed.
Yep.
Some people just simply retreated to motels and hotels in the area to ride out the chaos, and others left town to stay with relatives if they had that
Wow.
option. A 1976 movie about the murders would be called
The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
It was indeed. And it was not completely hyperbole. By the way, hat tip, do you know who was in The Town That Dreaded Sundown?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Was she really?
No, I
No, I don't
just
think
made
so.
that up.
She's 4.
No.
No, but she was not. Do you know who was in it? Someone, a favorite of mine anyway.
William
Dawn Wells of Gilligan's Island. She played Carrie.
Mary Larry.
Marianne. Mary.
Oh, I thought
in
you
Gilligan's
meant.
Island.
I thought you meant which.
Oh,
person
no.
that-
She played Mrs. Stark.
Oh.
She played Katie Stark.
Oh,
for her.
Good
Yeah.
for her. I've never watched that
Starks.
movie, but
Sorry, Starks.
I do want to watch the movie.
Really? It's not great.
Just out of curiosity.
But yeah, it does capture that it was not hyperbole in the sense that it really was absolutely a town on the edge.
yeah.
It was gun sales jumped, locks
I'll bet.
sales
It's
jumped,
a pretty
everything.
cool name for a movie. The
It is a
Town
very
That
good-
Dreaded
yeah.
Sundown is a cool
That's a very good
title.
name. I will give him that. Cafes and restaurants and other night spots saw their custom just plummet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
particularly as it neared dusk. So their
Mm-hmm.
nighttime
Dead.
just gone. It was just time to get home and hunker down. So the weekend after the Starks attack, the police were inundated by calls of prowlers. So the very next weekend, just everybody is seeing, they're outside my house right now. Get up here real quick. Every shadow was the killer. Everyone had a hair trigger. Police responding to any of these calls began to pull up to the house with sirens on and just, we're a cop. And then
Yeah.
they'd stand in
Yeah.
front of their car, headlights on, to show the homeowner, I'm a cop, don't shoot me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No neighbor or friend dropped in on anyone
No.
without
Yeah.
calling first. You knock, 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 boom. One hopeful beer drinker was shot and injured by a jittery barkeep when he just walked into the tavern at about dusk or just after dusk.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh.
Shoot first and then get you a beer.
You're a bar owner. You don't think
I know.
maybe give him a second?
If you're open,
Yeah.
Just- yeah.
Wow.
yeah. A man who ducked into a doorway to wait out the rain while he was waiting for a bus. The cops were immediately on him and almost arrested him.
Wow.
One person reported a prowler to the police, and the police came and investigated and found out it was the family's bushes brushing against
Oh
the
my
window.
God.
So, our redoubtable Texas Ranger, Captain Gonzalez, he helped immensely when on May 6th, he told the citizens of Texarkana to, quote, oil up the guns and see that they're loaded. Put them out of the reach of the children. Do not use them unless it's necessary, but if you believe it is,
Go ahead.
do not hesitate.
Jesus.
Thanks, Captain
Good
Gonzalez.
advice.
The police begged citizens and the media to avoid rumors and rumor mongering because one rumor was that Virgil Starks had heard a car driving slowly in front of their house
Oh no.
for 4 nights prior to the attack. It was completely untrue, and that he was in fear for his life and he knew it was coming or something like that. Utter nonsense, not true, but somehow that rumor had begun. And then later, by about May 19th or so, many people had come to believe that the killer had been captured by the police, but he's been held in secret by machine gun armed guards, or they had flown him out of the state entirely. Again, nothing to this, no reason to believe it, but just rumors
Yeah.
were spreading all over. Just, maybe it made him feel better. Who
Right.
knows?
I guess. I would probably lie to myself and be like, oh, I'm sure he's caught
He
already.
must be gone. He's done. The police showing that they didn't understand irony. The police admonished people to stop blaming their neighbors, which had become rampant. But Bowie County Sheriff Presley said, quote, all of us are tense and are hopeful that at any hour, officers will announce they have the killer in custody. The people must not become so anxious to rid themselves of the killer, however, that they brand innocent persons as the murderer and believe unfounded stories. So the Phantom Killer was just consuming
Yeah.
I'll
the
bet.
town
Clearly.
of
Yeah.
Texarkana. What did they do about it? Well, the town fought back. Damn it. Citizens set up overnight watches. They patrolled lovers' lanes. Vigilantes spread out everywhere all over the town looking for the slayer, kind of armed, patrolling the streets. One night, an Arkansas trooper named Charlie Boyd and his deputy Tillman Johnson, they saw a couple parked in a lonely lane at night.
Dummies.
So they went to
Idiots.
investigate. Tillman Johnson, walked up to the car, identified himself, and asked if they weren't afraid to be out alone so late. The woman in the car then showed the police officer her .25 caliber pistol that she had trained on him the entire way he was
Yeah.
walking to the car, and said, if you had not identified yourself as a police officer, I would have shot you. They were out there trying to lure
Yeah.
by themselves
God.
citizens trying to lure
Jesus.
the killer out so they could kill him.
I thought it was going to end up being two men in the car there waiting to.
Just you wait. They did that. I won't give details, but yeah, that was tried. There was a star local football player named C.J. Lauderdale Jr. I guess they were following his car, and he started speeding away from the police car, and they chased him for 3 miles. This was on May 10th. When they finally stopped him, he said, sorry, I didn't know you were police because you were driving an unmarked car. So they said, well, why were you speeding away from us? And he said, I saw someone suspicious board a bus, and I was chasing after the bus because I was thinking it might be the Phantom Slayer, and I was going to get him.
Oh, wow.
So you're a hero, CJ. So Captain Gonzalez warned the, quote, teenage sleuths to knock it off because, quote, it's a good way to get killed. Yet Gonzalez himself had recruited teenagers to sit in cars as decoys,
Oh, my gosh.
hoping to draw the killer and catch him in the act, or right before the act, apparently. So, good Lord. Police also used mannequins as their parking partners sometimes. So a cop, which is a better step than
Yeah.
local kids, a cop would have a mannequin, presumably a female mannequin, sit next to them in the car, hoping, again, to lure the killer
Yeah.
out and get him. Some cops also hid in trees by Spring Lake Park, thinking he might return to where he captured the Booker and Martin incident took place, right? He did not go back. He never went back to any of these same locations, but they, hid in
Yeah.
trees the whole night just in
Yeah.
case. The progression of the investigation can be seen in the reaction to each crime. The initial Hollis and Larry case, very little attention. No suspects were brought in at all. Law enforcement simply thought, okay, they did something bad, but the perpetrator probably left town. It wasn't, no one got,
Yeah.
he got his skull cracked open.
Jesus.
But let's move on.
Nobody died.
Yeah. Over 200 people were brought in for questioning following the Griffin and Moore case, though. 3 were brought in with blood on their clothes, even.
Oh, wow.
But all were cleared.
Just walking around with blood
Some
on their
blood.
clothes?
Has some blood. Who knows?
Okay. Hangnail and bloody nose?
Carrie,
What?
you never know. Out hunting. I don't know.
Oh.
He had blood and nose. After the Martin and Booker murders, the search for suspects widened to 100 miles around Texarkana.
Wow.
Everyone was seen as a possible suspect, white or black, men or women. I mean, it just went an exhaustive dragnet after that case. Because the police did not find Betty Jo Booker's saxophone at the crime scene of that case, they had pawn shops. They would keep an eye on all the pawn shops and questioning pawn shop owners and other places like that where someone might try to sell a saxophone.
Right.
But then they found it.
Well, they did, but a man in Corpus Christi before that, on April 27th, he seemed kind of nervous to a pawn shop owner when he seemed kind of nervous to a pawn shop owner when he tried to sell a saxophone. It was actually, it was at a music store, and then when the attendant went back to talk to the manager, he fled. So that's a hot lead. He was arrested 2 days later. He was identified and arrested and brought in. And they found out he had just bought a gun and had a bag of bloody clothes in his room at the cheap hotel he had been staying at. He did not have a saxophone, however. So they had he ditched it? What's going on with his bloody clothes? He said the blood was his. He'd been in a bar fight. And what's all this about? What are you guys, worried about me for? After several days of interrogation, his story finally checked out. He had been in a bar fight. They were his bloody clothes. And of course, it was only later that Betty's saxophone would be found in the area right by her body, where her body had been left. Remember, it was about 6 months after that they found the saxophone. Okay. So for a long time, they thought that would be a good lead.
Yeah. Which is smart.
Yeah, it's good. It's good work. And he looked. I mean, you flee and you have bloody clothes. We need to talk to you. After the Starks murders, the police did find someone they thought kind of a usual suspect type of person. He was a 46-year-old drifter named Charles Coleman, and he had been arrested on suspicion of rape just a few days after the killing of the Starks.
So a verified sex maniac.
Yes, he was. When they found out that he had been in Texarkana when the first 2 murders were committed, they locked him up and looked into it. Lucky for Coleman, though, he was able to prove he had been in Colorado during the Starks killings, and the police cut him loose. Because, again, they're working on the assumption that they're all connected.
Yeah.
Another false lead was a local man known only as Sammy, and he was brought in because his car tires matched those found at the Paul Martin crime scene. Remember, there was tires there, and he was killed and left on the side of the road.
Right.
This man, Sammy, denied having been there, but they gave him polygraph tests 3 times, and he failed all 3 times, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Sammy also was a huge strike against him, black. So Sammy, must have been absolutely shocked when Sheriff Presley said, "You know what? I don't think you did it." Which is like, what? Are you sure? And so Sheriff Presley had him hypnotically regressed.
Oh, my God.
And Sammy finally admitted, yes, indeed, I had been by the park the night of when Paul and Betty Jo were murdered, but I just did it to pee on the side of the road. I didn't do it to kill. I wasn't killing 2 kids, and they cleared him and let him go. Good. Shockingly. They probably could, I don't know much more details of that, but they probably couldn't put him in to the other ones either, yeah. So frustrating dead end, but then the police caught a break. Or rather, a rookie police officer gave them a break.
Oh.
Though he was only 33, Max Tackett was a rookie on the Arkansas State Police Force. He had an idea, Max did. He noticed that a car had been stolen the night of each murder. Oh. Those stolen vehicles had then been found not long after the murders, abandoned. Had that been the killer stealing cars to commit his crimes, Max thought.
Yeah.
When Tackett heard that a car had been stolen just before the Starks attack, and that same car was now spotted in a parking lot on June 28th, 1946, he said, "I'm going to go stake out that scene, see if someone comes and gets it." Sure enough, it's in the middle of the day, so he thought maybe they still have that car and they're using it. So he stakes out the scene and waits for someone to come to it, and someone does. To his surprise, though, that someone is a woman. And she'd been in a nearby store doing some shopping. She came back to her car. He arrested her. It was 21-year-old Peggy Swinney, and she was taken in for questioning. Peggy admitted that she and her husband were car thieves. It's like, okay, fine. We steal cars. I'm not lying. Well, at least her husband was, and she said, he makes me help him. I don't have much choice in it. After all, we're all newlyweds. Yeah. They had just been married in Shreveport, Louisiana. Her husband at that time was not in Texarkana. He was down in Atlanta. Again, that's the Atlanta in Texas, oddly, who knew? It's a small town about 25 miles south of Texarkana. Tackett, the cop, called the other Atlanta police force, and he found out from them that there had been a man in their town trying to sell a stolen car. So he said, "I'm interested in that guy." That person had tried to sell the stolen car to a man who then reported that to the police because he suspected the car was stolen. Unfortunately, that man that witnessed potentially to who this person is didn't really get a good look at the guy trying to sell him the car. He's just sort of a nondescript car thief. And he didn't think he could recognize him. So Tackett thinks, okay, well, let me think here. The witness had a very distinctive look about him. He was an old school kind of a cowboy vibe with like a big hat, and he had boots on. I'm assuming also assless chaps. I
Probably.
don't know.
You would assume.
You would think.
Spurs.
Probably. So Tackett told the man, quote, "You wouldn't recognize him, but he might recognize you." So Tackett had an idea. He's a good cop. So he figured the thief would be shy to see his intended victim or react when he saw this person who could ID him. So Tackett took the cowboy back to Texarkana. He's hoping that this Peggy Sweeney's husband had gone back to Texarkana, and this person was one and the same person. And he took him to like bars and other places he thought a car thief might hang out. And just like
Wait.
walked him around.
They didn't get Peggy's home address when they arrested her?
So he's staying in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
And again, they don't know that this person is Peggy's husband, but they just know he's someone trying to sell a car. So maybe he's connected. If Max Tack is his idea is correct, he could be the guy. They go through bars. No one, reacts the way he's hoping someone will. So they walk into the bus station downtown Texarkana, another place that maybe a car thief is. Maybe they're trying to leave the town. Tackett spots a man immediately pop up from his seat and flee toward the back of the building. They're on the second floor, by the way. So Tackett chases after him and catches him just before he's trying to get down the fire escape of the building. And Tackett arrests him. The man then said something very odd. After begging the officer not to shoot him, Tackett said, quote, "I'm not going to shoot you for car theft." The car thief snarled at him and answered, "Mister, don't play games with me. You want me for more than stealing cars." It's a pretty incriminating thing to say.
Yeah.
And stupid. But then again,
idiotic thing to
thieves
say.
are dumb for
Yeah.
the most part. Criminals are mostly fairly dumb. Karen and I were talking about this the other day. Master criminals, these genius criminals, that's pretty much a fictional thing.
Yeah.
There aren't really any of those people in real life.
Mastermind crimes don't really happen.
Yeah.
They happen in the movies.
But he's even dumber than the average criminal. Like, "Mister, I know you want me for more than..." Just stop talking, dude. The man Tackett had arrested was indeed Ewell Swinney. Swinney was a petty crook, but a prolific one. He had done time for car theft, burglary, assault, counterfeiting.
Wow.
He was a true habitual criminal.
He's busy.
Very busy. The police searched the motel room where Ewell and his wife Peggy had been staying. Something in there caught their eye. It was a shirt stuffed in the closet, like back in the corner of a closet. The pocket on the shirt had the name Stark stenciled on it. Was this a trophy from the Stark murder? The Starks murder? While the police searched Swinney's room, wife Peggy was even more helpful. She was very helpful. Under pretty light questioning, she let it all out. She flat out, I shouldn't say that. Under pretty intense questioning, she flat out told the police that her husband was indeed the Texarkana Phantom Killer. Flat out. Yep, it's him. You got him.
Wow.
He did it. She claimed she'd even joined him on one of his murderous excursions, though she said she had not taken any kind of an active role in any of the slayings on that either. He just made her come with him, company. Her story was pretty detailed. It was pretty compelling, but it was also contradictory and not terribly reliable. I'll tell you, I'll get more on that in a second, but it's centered on the Martin Booker murders because she said that's the one she had gone to, essentially. Here are some excerpts of her story. Quote, Swinney, she calls him Swinney, her husband.
Yeah,
it's
that's
weird.
That's weird.
Swinney asked me if I wanted to go to Spring Lake Park, and I told him I would if he wanted to. After getting into the park, Swinney drove on around the park until we came to a dairy over beyond the park. Swinney stopped the car near the dairy, and we drank 4 bottles of beer that we had.
Nice.
Swinney got out of the car, and I asked him what he was going to do. He said, "I'm going to take a leak." So Peggy claimed that she was left in the car for a long time alone when she heard something that might be the sound of gunshots. Quote, "It was just getting daylight when Swinney came back to the car. He had been gone for 4 or 5 hours. When Swinney came back to the car, I saw that his clothes were wet up to his knees and damp on up to his waist. Before getting out of the park, we passed a car, which I remember as being a coupe. I don't remember what color it was." Paul Martin's car was a coupe. Swinney stopped by the car. He got out, went back to the coupe, parked on the side of the road. I saw him look into the car and get something out of it. He brought a large black case which looked like a hard leather black box and put it into the trunk of the car we were in. I asked Sweeney what he was doing, getting something out of this car. Sweeney replied that a friend told him to come out here and get it. We then left the park and drove to my mother's on Richmond Road. So that's her story. And that was the night, and that fits more or less the facts of the Paul Martin Betty Jo Booker murders. Peggy, though, was a frustratingly slippery source. She would recant her story and then reaccuse her husband and then recant again, rinse and repeat several times over the next following weeks that followed her initial confession. With each retelling, the details shifted a little bit. The story would morph a little bit every time she told and retold her story. And though some of the details that she apparently knew were intriguing, the ever-changing tale was and should have been a red flag to the police.
Yeah.
Or it should have been more of a red flag than they took it as. To make it worse, from the standpoint of actually pinning the murders on Sweeney, Peggy said she'd refused to testify in court against her husband, and she could not be legally forced to do so because they were married. Also, over the weeks of her accusations and her recantations, Peggy spoke to over a dozen law enforcement personnel. Everyone was in and out of there questioning her and talking to her.
Right.
None could then be sure that some or a lot of her details had not come from one of their colleagues.
Yeah.
So it wasn't only a problem with what she said to whom, but what they had said to her. That was the key.
What a mess.
Yeah, it is a messed up investigation for sure. Her story changed constantly, as I mentioned. And as you might have noticed, she got many of the details wrong, as well as the times and places of the murders. So did you notice that Peggy had said Yule had taken clearly what was meant to be Betty Jo's saxophone case and had dropped it in his trunk. This was before they had found the saxophone. So when they then found the saxophone later, near where Betty Jo's body was found, Peggy changed her story to match this new evidence. But even then, so she said, oh, yeah, no, he took it to some bushes and threw it in the bushes. But even then, she could not locate the exact place where he had actually tossed it into the bushes. And then there was this letter. The police had intercepted a letter Peggy had written to her parents not long after her initial confession. In it, she claims she had done the confession just to stop the police questioning. She was just exhausted and tired just to shut them up. She said what they wanted to say. And this is a letter that she, unless she's a master criminal, she didn't think they were going to see. She sent this to her parents. We'll put a picture. We'll have a facsimile of it on the website and Facebook. And here's a quote from it, though. I guess the sheriff on the Texas side and that FBI man had been out to the house, meaning her parents' house. For they was up to see me yesterday. They still think Sweeney killed those people. Sweeney, by the way, is in all caps. I have no idea why.
That's weird.
She's typing it, by the way. I didn't know what to do. They don't believe me. So what else can I do but to tell them that he did it? They will believe a lie. If I send Sweeney to the chair, that would be on my mind the rest of my life. For taking his life when he was not the one that killed that little boy and girl on April 13th, 1946. I could send him to the chair, then I would be killed. That's so and so that you all rented that house from said that we was in his field on April 14th, 1946.
This makes zero sense.
That is a lie, underlined twice. I wish that dad would said something to him about it too. I have no idea what she's talking about.
She's having trouble there.
Yes, she is. The last quote from this letter is I don't think that they won't to send me to the pen, but it is Sweeney they are after. So basically, they're saying, tell us Sweeney did it, tell us Sweeney did it. She told them Sweeney did it. Yeah. And they supplied, whether wittingly or not, they supplied her with the details to feed them back those same details. But when they asked her for more details, she didn't know them. She got a lot of things wrong. And remember, the saxophone's critical because they thought that at the time he had taken it and he had not.
And we've seen that happen a million times.
Many times.
Dateline in 48 hours.
Max Tackett, the police officer whose idea this was, he would always think Sweeney was the killer. Most of the other law enforcement personnel on the case became pretty unconvinced that it was Sweeney.
Yeah.
So Yule Sweeney was never charged. One of the problems was that his prints did not match those found at the Starks house, which we know are suspect anyway, but they also didn't match prints found at the car parked at Spring Lake Park, Paul Martin's car. So that's a hole. There were some problems also with Tackett's theory on its face. The biggest was that the car theft timeline kind of didn't work. The first car Swinney stole in Texarkana was a green 1941 Plymouth. It was not stolen until the night after the Griffin Moore murders. And he had not abandoned it, but they still had it even 3 months later. Swinney also had not stolen a car the night of the Hollis Larry attack, and it's questionable he even had a car at his disposal on that night at all. Witnesses had apparently seen him get into a cab the day after the Hollis Larry attack. So there's just some problems with the theory itself. Swinney would spend the next decades in prison when he was sentenced to a life term for being a habitual criminal, kind of a 3 strikes you're out, I guess.
Yeah.
He was released in 1973 when his sentence was overturned on appeal. He then spent his last years in and out of prison for small offenses like theft and counterfeiting. He died in 1994. So he was a habitual criminal. He probably should have been left in prison where he belonged. Swinney was not the only seemingly viable suspect at the time, however. I'll talk about a couple here. One, the key one that most people who theorize about this think it might have been, besides Yule Swinney, was a guy named Henry David Doody Tennyson. Doody.
Duty.
Doody.
Doodie.
Oh, okay.
He was found in Fayetteville, Arkansas on November 5th, 1948, so a little more than 2 years later. He was just getting started. He was a freshman at the University of Arkansas at the time. When he was found dead, he had poisoned himself with cyanide.
Oh, wow.
So just another tragic case. It's someone seeking a permanent solution to a temporary problem. He's having the freshman blues, gone from home to University of Arkansas. But then the police checked his rented room, and they found a note. The note from the 18-year-old claimed he had been the Texarkana Phantom Killer.
When he was 16?
When he was 16 years old, yeah. I'll talk about that in a second, but yeah. It read in part, quote, "Why did I take my own life? You may be asking that question, question mark."
Yeah, I am.
But you may be asking that question. Well, when you committed 2 double murders, you would too.
Okay.
Almost like,
This does not sound like a suicide note at all.
yes, I did kill Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin in the city park that night and killed Mr. Starks and tried to get Mrs. Starks. End quote.
I remember this letter.
Do you?
Yeah, in the documentary I watched, they talked about this.
That's the only reason they'd ever suspect this kid of doing it. Other letters found with his stuff refuted this self-accusation, though. The note also left out the Griffin Moore murder completely.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the police were intrigued. When they found out that Tennyson, Doody, had been in Texarkana on the day of the Starks attack, they were even a little more interested. However, like I said, the letter left out any mention of the first attack on Hollis and Larry, as we'll talk about in a minute. And it's not clear, but we'll talk about this in a second, but it's also not clear that all of the attacks really were the same person, especially
that's
at
what
the
I was gonna
Starks.
say,
And he
yeah.
claims in this, I did the Starks attack.
Yeah.
So the police then tracked down a friend of Dennison's who swore they had been together the whole night of the Starks incident. And so Doody could not have committed that crime. Again, he was 16 at the time.
Yeah.
Doody's prints, like Swinney's, were also not a match for any of the crime scene fingerprints.
Yeah.
And finally, no weapon Doody had access to match the murder weapons, either the 22 rifle or the 32 Colt pistol. He didn't have access, as far as they knew, they could tell, to that kind of weapon.
Right.
And of course, again, he would have been 16 years old
Yeah.
when the murders occurred.
Which doesn't mean it's impossible.
Doesn't mean it's impossible.
It's not
But-
impossible, but it's less
Less
likely.
likely, yeah.
Still, he was a troubled, probably psychologically unbalanced kid, but he was not the Moonlight
Yeah.
Killer. No way.
He wanted to go out with a bang.
Who knows? I mean, he's
Yeah.
troubled,
Yeah.
and obviously, he committed suicide.
I mean,
so-
it's not out, like, people falsely confess to crimes on their deathbed all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also do the opposite too.
Yeah.
They don't commit to crimes that we know they did.
Yes.
So
Right.
the whole deathbed confession, like it's some kind of a
Sacred.
is
Right.
utter nonsense in
Yeah.
either direction. Doody, that was not the only possible. For a short time, the police said they were chasing a possible escaped German POW, a prisoner of war, who they thought was at large and was so apparently taking out his vengeance on the people of Texarkana for some indiscernible reason. I don't know.
Well, they held him prisoner.
But so you wait around shooting people on lovers' lanes over weeks and weeks. on a schedule. I don't know.
Everybody deals with
I
trauma
guess.
differently.
It was just they had a very specific description of him, and they said he had stolen a car in Mount Ida, Arkansas. The police eventually, though, said this POW had disappeared. It is likely utter nonsense. Some jingoistic cop who who thought there was an escaped German POW just said, "Okay, that's him." They're speculating. It's just not. There's no way it was him. On May 10th, though, a drifter in Atoka County, Oklahoma, knocked on the door of a Mrs. Harmon, and he asked her for money, food, and turpentine.
Okay.
As you will.
As you will.
When she said she didn't have those things, he yanked her outside by her hair, and he threatened to rape her and kill her.
Jesus
Wow.
Christ.
He said, I might as well, because he'd already killed 3 or 4 people. So a man on a horse then just luckily rode up toward the house, and that scared him off. The police eventually arrested a man who roughly met the description that she gave, height and weight, and he had a heavy beard growth on his chin, right? They eventually cleared him, though, but not before they sat him in jail for 3 weeks to let his beard grow back, since when they had arrested him, he was clean-shaven.
Oh, my
It was
God.
like, well, okay, you're clean-shaven now, but let's get your
We
beard
gotta
back and we'll
check.
see if you're the guy. And he was not the guy.
Jeez.
Ralph B. Bauman was a disturbed man who had fought in World War II, and he lived in Los Angeles at the time of the murders. He went to the Los Angeles newspapers when the murders were occurring, because remember, these made national news, and he tried to sell them on the idea that he was the Texarkana killer. He didn't find any takers there. The reporters, poked holes in his story immediately.
Of course.
And so he went to the police, where he again gave his confession for his supposed sins.
Wow.
He said he'd lived for danger to the police, and he had been in a coma. And when he awoke, he felt he was fleeing something.
Okay.
Was that something? His guilt in these famous murders of the time? He thought maybe it was.
So he maybe really thought he did it.
He really did. He was, again,
I
very
see.
unbalanced.
Yeah.
He said maybe that was me, but if not, maybe they can help him get a job as a stuntman for one of the Hollywood studios.
Oh, my God.
Like, do you know anyone in the biz?
He's got a plan.
Yeah, he does. That was just, you got to start somewhere. If you
Yeah.
don't know someone in that business, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
There were other false leads and false confessions, but no suspect ever was even taken remotely seriously by law enforcement. In 1999 and 2000, some unnamed woman called some of the family members of the Phantom Slayer survivors, right? And she apologized for, quote, what her father did. Some point out that Yul Sweeney never had a daughter, as if that's tangible evidence.
Right.
It's stupid. The only reason I mention this is I want to comment on how stupid it is to take anonymous confessions or admissions on the phone or anything like that remotely seriously.
Yeah.
And you find time and time again, you find that they do. Like they looked into
Yeah.
it. What? You don't even look into it.
Yeah.
It's just some idiot on a phone. Jesus. The internet troll of 1999. They're always hoaxes. Just knock it off. You're wasting time. So they really are kind of the ancestors of internet trolls, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bastards.
They are.
So the shadow left by the Texarkana Phantom Slayer spread to nearby towns and as far away as Oklahoma City. So they thought this guy might move around, and they were scared as well.
Yeah, that I would have assumed that he left.
Yeah.
Texarkana.
He did
because
stay there
it
for a
was
long time.
Too dangerous.
Yeah, and it
you
wasn't
know?
that big a town, and there was
Yeah.
vigilantes and people roaming around
Yeah.
everywhere. Fear hovered over Texarkana itself, though, all summer long. But when finally there had gone months without any more mayhem, they kind of stabilized and started to get past it. By October, the out-of-town law enforcement began to quietly leave. The Texas Rangers, the FBI. No announcements were made about this, though, for fear that the Phantom would feel emboldened and make a
Yeah.
comeback, but he didn't.
Yeah.
The Starks were his last attack. And even that, as we've hinted, was possibly not him. Different
Yeah.
weapon, different kind of different place, location, in a home instead of a car, and at a quiet neighborhood instead of a lover's lane. It
Well,
was
that would make sense because nobody's going to lovers lanes anymore.
that's true. But also a married couple,
Yeah.
and they're older. Nothing fit the MO,
No.
as they'd say.
But again, People change their MO.
That's true. That's true. Eventually, though, most law enforcement involved in the case came to think that the Lovers Lane's initial attacks were not committed by the same person that killed the Starks.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that the Starks was a different perpetrator. I do too.
Yeah,
don't
I think it's
at least
very
really,
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
possible too. There was some interesting timing to the case. The Starks case did dovetail, though, with the weekend only thing. And it was 3 weeks after, which that was kind of a pattern, 3 weeks on the weekend. So, you start to wonder if it is related to, if they are all related, did the killer work out of the area during the week and maybe only come home on the weekends?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm speculating here, like at an oil field or a drilling platform or something like that. I don't know.
Or like a 16-year-old, he's got too much homework during the week. His dad will only let him use the truck on the weekend.
Yeah, but the 3 weeks could also be, I don't know if anybody's ever looked into this, but the 3 weeks could be something like you're gone 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And you come home or for multiple weeks at a time, something
Yeah.
like that. And he was only able to do these things on the weekends spread apart. But like I said, ultimately, I think more differences than there are similarities in the Starks case to make it
Yeah.
questionable that that was
Yeah.
a Texarkana moonlight murder case. And obviously, unfortunately, Katie did not see her perp at all. Otherwise, if he had a pillowcase, maybe so. But we don't know.
Right,
We'll never
yeah.
know. And then there were the killings of Lawrence Hogan and Elaine Eldridge on October 8th, 1946, so a few months after the Starks case. There were some odd similarities to this murder. The couple was shot in a lover's lane. They were young, he 23, she 24, and they had been shot by a .32 caliber gun. The key difference, however, was pretty huge. They were killed in Dania Beach, Florida,
Oh.
like 1,200 miles away
Well,
from Texarkana.
There
These
you
murders were
go.
never solved, but some people have thought, okay, maybe he moved on to Dania Beach
Exactly,
and did the
yeah.
same thing. It's
It's
not
possible,
impossible,
yeah.
but then that's it.
Right.
If that's true, that's the last of
Yeah.
his depredations. Maybe Virginia Carpenter was murdered closer to home, back in Texarkana on June 1st, 1948. So did he come back to Texarkana? A little bit later, a couple years after the last ones.
Where was she murdered?
She in Texarkana.
No, but I mean in her home, and I'm assuming not in Lover's Lane by herself.
I'm sorry, she was from Texarkana. She was murdered in Denton, Texas. So she attended Texas State College for Women, and she arranged for, she took a cab from Texarkana, her home, back to school, right, on June 1st. She arranged for the cab driver who took her from the train station in Denton to pick up her stuff at the station and take them to her dorm room the next morning. I guess she didn't want to deal with it that night. It was late at night.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird, isn't it? But he said, okay, for an extra fee, whatever. Oh, yeah, I'll go back to the train station. I'll drop off your bags at your dorm building, right? The driver did exactly that. He set down the suitcase in front of Breckenridge Hall, where it sat for 3 days.
Oh, shit.
The police found out about it. They tracked down the cabbie. He said Carpenter had been speaking to two young men when he had dropped her off that night. Like she gets out and he spotted her speaking to these two guys. She seemed to know them, he said. Those men were never found. And the police eventually ruled out both the cab driver and Virginia's boyfriend. Virginia, however, disappeared and was never found.
Wow.
So some people think
That's
that
scary.
because she was from Texarkana, did she, I don't know, the victims, did the killer know her? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Also, I don't think that's connected
I don't
at all.
see any
Yeah. It's
connection
kind of
there,
like
but-
Jack the Ripper. Some people put several more murders
Onto
onto the
Jack-
ledger
yeah.
of Jack the Ripper that are almost certainly had
Yeah.
nothing to do with Jack the Ripper. It's kind of like that. You're looking for these just random people who have some attachment to Texarkana. It's not even in Texarkana where this
Yeah.
happened. She just happened to live in Texarkana. Even some people think even other victims. There were other victims of the Slayer. A guy named Earl McSpadden was murdered only a few days after the Starks attack in Texarkana. His body found on May 7th on a railroad track. It had been run over by a train. The coroner saw clear evidence that McSpadden had been murdered and then placed on the tracks. But the sheriff thought he's a drifter and he'd just fall onto the track, and the train ran him over.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, some people think he was the Phantom Slayer himself, and this had been kind of his suicidal end. He had died, however, from a deep gash on the head, and so probably not from the train.
Yeah.
And so the coroner was almost certainly right, and the sheriff in this case just lazy, and he had nothing to do with the Phantom Slayer whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's likely the Phantom Slayer left town not long after the Starks attack for what you just said.
Yeah.
It's too hot for him to
Yeah.
be there. So to this day, we have no idea who the Phantom Slayer was. We almost certainly never will. His lasting significance, though, is on what happened to Texarkana, which it still haunts them in a way to this day because, as Emma said earlier, or was talking about before, I think, right? They still have like midnight movies and gatherings about the Texarkana slayings to this day in Texarkana.
Current as in
I
2021.
think they did not that long ago, though.
Yeah, I watched a documentary that covered this case, and it's not an old documentary. It's from a couple years or a few years ago, and they would
Yeah.
do showings. Yeah,
They would do showings of the movie, and it's obviously it's kind of campy, but still, it's a big deal there now. Still,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the families of the victims would feel about that.
probably
they
not
still
great,
around?
but
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't. But
It's
yeah.
a little.
insensitive.
It's
Yeah.
extremely so. But show is doing a flippin' podcast about it too. We've been quite reverent here. It's awful what happened.
Yes.
Carrie's the one who's been bad mouthing most of the victims. It's not, we're fine with it. By the way, urban legend of the hook. The hook found,
Yes.
the lovers lane
Yes.
thing where there's someone out escaped from prison or something like that, and they have a hook for a hand, and they're
That's
making
what
out.
the documentary was.
Oh, was it?
It's called Killer Legends,
Ah.
and they kind of tried
Yeah.
to figure out what maybe
Yes.
the root cause of these urban
So-
legends were. So they talked about the Texarkana murders because of the hook.
The
urban
hook thing
legend.
though is that, and then so they hear like rustling or something like that, and they think, and they drive away, and then when they get home, there's a hook on the car handle somehow. So
Yeah.
the killer was just about to break in and kill
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole urban legend.
Basically.
It has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the Texarkana murder. That's just
But
nonsense.
they became
Yeah.
connected because of the Lover Lane angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of people think there is
Yeah.
a connection there, but it's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hate to poo-poo that.
The documentary poo-pooed that.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, because they were trying to find some actual true crime that could have spawned an urban
Right.
legend. And,
What about no connections to Zodiac Killer?
No, but it is interesting, isn't it? Some people think that, I mean, no, you don't think it's the same person if that's what you mean, but some
Yeah.
people think maybe the Zodiac Killer had been inspired by
Yeah.
the
Could be, yeah.
location
Yeah,
because
that's
he
possible.
started out in Lover's Lanes,
Right.
things like that. So it's possible. It's possible. It's just a very convenient
Yeah.
place to kill someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're alone. It's
Eh,
lonely. It's
secluded.
yeah.
And I'm sure there have been plenty other incidents of the same type of murder.
Probably. Well, probably, but I don't know. If there was a serial killer doing that, there probably have been other Lover's Lane
Yeah.
serial
Oh,
killers.
yeah,
I imagine. I
definitely.
just don't know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, people do. Some people do connect in that the
Yeah.
Zodiac to this.
Yeah.
Well, we
Yes.
know who the Zodiac Killer is, so
It was Ted Cruz.
It's Ted
Yeah,
Cruz.
that's a fact. That's a fact.
that's
That's
a known
absolute
fact. Like, it's not a mystery
No,
anymore. it's Ted
a known
Cruz.
fact. His face just melts into a new shape every few years.
And
Some
his
kind of demon
and
creature.
Ted Cruz's dad was D.B. Cooper. Pretty sure.
I
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought he killed JFK.
Both.
Carrie, you can
do
multitask.
both. Oh,
Carrie,
okay.
it's years apart. I mean, come on.
Prolific.
Obviously, Jesus. So that's the story, the two-part story of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders.
Fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean.
Super fun.
We keep promising more upbeat.
I
And we
know.
keep not
well,
delivering
those don't
more upbeat.
exist. I'll
Just-
think of some upbeat
Okay,
stuff.
do something upbeat. Something
Okay.
weird but upbeat. Weird but happy. Happy weird.
Okay. I'll find something.
Would you like to tell them where they can find us and stuff like that, Carrie?
Weird World Podcast on the internet
Okay,
at
that's good.
gmail.com, on Facebook and Instagram and Patreon, and Weird World Pod on Twitter.
Hey,
Thank you.
hey.
I tweeted about this last night.
He
I'll
tweeted.
I will tweet
Tweetered.
this. I'll tweet, man. Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
there's probably a lot less tweets in the world now that what's his name can't tweet anymore.
Yes, there are.
You need to fill
What's his
that
name?
void.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll do that.
He shall not be named ever again.
Voldemort. Okay. Thanks everyone for listening. Until next time.
Peace up.
Peace up. People don't say that.
Yes, I do.
They say peace out, tits up.
Okay, Carrie. Inappropriate.
Goodbye.
Bye.